next time you're wandering through the produce section of your local supermarket, take a really good look. Probably walk past bins of apples, bananas, and pineapples without giving them a second thought. But what if I told you that one of those everyday fruits once came from national trade, inspired magnificent architecture, and stood as the absolute ultimate symbol of extreme wealth? Well, we are going to dive right into the royal icon in this explainer. Okay, let's play a little game. Imagine walking into an incredibly high-end You'd completely expect to see people flashing luxury cars out front, right? Or maybe wearing incredibly expensive diamond jewelry. But instead, the host crouched pineapple right in the dead center of the table to prove to everyone just how wealthy and people actually stare at it. They admire it. They whisper about the sheer extravagance of it all. I know, it sounds absolutely ridiculous to us today. To really wrap our heads around this absurdity, we have to travel back about 300 years. Get this, back then, a single pineapple could cost or earned an entire month. It definitely wasn't just some quick midday snack. It was an absolute treasure. To actually sit down and eat a pineapple was a small fortune in a few bites. But before it became this massive royal obsession, it was just a wild plant hanging out in the South American rainforests. These early wild varieties were pretty small, totally full of seeds, and very sweet at all. But over generations, indigenous farmers worked some absolute magic. They carefully cultivated these plants, slowly selecting the very best crops until they developed that much larger love today. And what's truly fascinating here is that for these indigenous communities living across modern-day Brazil and Paraguay, the pineapple wasn't some untouchable luxury item. It was just a vital, highly practical part. Sure, the fruit was eaten fresh as a delicious crop, but they used everything. The tough leaves with strong fibers to create cloth and sturdy rope, and various plant parts were even utilized in traditional medicine. It was just a perfect... So when did the rest of the world catch on? Everything changed when Christopher Columbus stumbled upon the fruit in Guadeloupe in 1493. He and his crew encountered this completely unfamiliar, spiky plant. He took a taste and instantly recognized its immense value. It had this rough skin and a crown of sharp leaves, but the sweet aroma was unlike anything they had back home. He brought this unforgettable flavor all the way back to Spain. And let me tell you, the Spanish royalty were absolutely mesmerized by this exotic discovery. And just like that, literally every king, queen wanted one for themselves. Demand absolutely exploded, but a massive roadblock, something we can call the Great European Pineapple Problem. You see, pineapples need a hot tropical. Europe's cold, freezing climate made growing them locally completely impossible at the time. If you wanted one, you had to import it. And that brings a transport nightmare. Getting fresh pineapples across the ocean back then took weeks or even months on these slow-moving sailing ships. Just imagine a fragile in the sweltering heat of a ship's hold for that long, battling brutal storms in the clock. It meant almost all the fruit just spoiled and rotted away in the heat long before it ever saw European shores. It was a gamble every single time a ship set sail. So because only a tiny, perfect pineapples actually survived this treacherous Atlantic journey, possessing one became an intense, undeniable symbol of absolute power. When a royal banquet featured a pineapple towering in the center of the dining table, it wasn't just dessert. Owning one loudly declared, I am rich, I have incredible connections, and I can afford what almost no one else can. Leads us to the peak absurdity of the era, and maybe my favorite part of this whole explainer, a bizarre rental economy. If you were hosting an elegant 1700s dinner party, buy a pineapple. No, you would rent it. You'd rent the fruit just for the evening, display it as your glorious could marvel at your wealth, and then you'd return it to its owner the very next day, without anyone ever taking a single bite, from party to party until it literally became too rotten to show off. Across Britain and Europe, the fruit came to represent hospitality and success so fiercely that wealth permanently carving its image into everyday life. We're talking impressive pineapple motifs carved into grand entrance gates, decorating historic churches right into elegant indoor fireplaces. And the ultimate flex? Structures like Scotland's famous stone Dunmore pineapple. It is exactly what it sounds like, a massive literal building topped with a gigantic, meticulously carved stone pineapple. People wanted to bypass those rotting cargo ships entirely. To pull this off, the absolute richest landowners spent a fortune building these special structures. These were incredibly expensive, specially built heated greenhouses that actually to carefully mimic tropical growing conditions right in the middle of a freezing European winter. The whole experiment could take years, just single fruit. And honestly, pulling it off was considered a way bigger achievement than actually eating the pineapple. But eventually, as it always does, technology caught up with demand. By the early, new railroads and rapid steamships started replacing those slow-sailing vessels. Then, in the late 1800s, sprawling new plantations found the absolute perfect climate across Hawaii. But the real turning point? 1903, when entrepreneur James Dole founded the Hawaiian Pineapple Company and engineered a revolutionary shift to canned. Canning was a complete game changer. Suddenly, people thousands of miles away from the tropics could enjoy it all year round. It totally transformed this rare royal treasure into a standard household favorite. In fact, millions of them, marketing them globally as a symbol of sunny tropical vacations. It got enthusiastically adopted into our desserts and, yes, even our pizzas. Before long, massive global production expanded well beyond Hawaii to amazing places like Philippines, Thailand, and Indonesia. And today, the scale of production is just staggering. Thanks to modern refrigeration and super-fast cargo ships, over 30 million tons are grown and transported around the world every single year. Just think about that. A fruit that used to take months to cross the ocean, rotting away the whole time, can now arrive completely fresh in a supermarket on Earth in less than a week. Yet despite becoming this everyday fruitly grab for a few bucks, it hasn't completely lost its magic. If you look closely, hotels, restaurants, and even our own homes still proudly use its imagery on signs or knockers to symbolize a warm welcome. It is literally an old luxury tradition alive today, hiding right there in plain sight. So the next time you slice into this everyday fruit, ask yourself what other ancient royal histories are hiding right in front of you. Because you aren't just holding a quick snack. You are holding a fruit that completely changed farming, international trade, and even world architecture. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and be sure to join us for more untold stories next time.